Hello, everybody. You are very, very welcome to the celebration of World Behaviour Analysis Day today. As you probably know, it's B.F. Skinner's birthday. He would have been 120 years old today, as far as I calculated. And of course, he's very much missed. But we are celebrating the fact that behaviour analysis has had a long history. And today we are celebrating with Zuzanna Maštenová, who is a long-standing colleague of ours and has done some amazing work. Zuzanna is a board-certified behaviour analyst who graduated with a master's degree in psychology from Prešov University in Slovakia about 20 years ago. And upon relocating to the UK, she began her career in applied behaviour analysis, focusing on supporting children with autism as a behaviour therapist in both home and school-based programmes. Subsequently, after completing her BCBA coursework, she returned to Slovakia and co-founded Via ABA OZ, a non-governmental organisation dedicated to delivering evidence-based instruction to children with autism. Through Via ABA, Zuzanna is committed to disseminating information about ABA and evidence-based practices in autism treatment, providing training for parents, professionals, and organising practical workshops and presentations and conferences. And we are delighted to have Zuzanna here. It's a real privilege that Zuzanna has agreed to celebrate Behaviour Analysis, World Behaviour Analysis Day with us today. So welcome, Zuzanna. And welcome all the participants. We've had a very great response from everybody. We have people from all over the world here with us today, so it's wonderful. So welcome to the Centre for Behaviour Analysis webinar series and to our celebrations. I will leave you over to Zuzanna. I'll leave the presentation now. And Zuzanna, it's over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, and thank you for joining us today. And it is a great honor to give this talk on World Behavior Analysis Day. And we are also celebrating B.F. Skinner's birthday today, so happy birthday, B.F. Skinner. And thank you so much to Professor Carla Dillenberger and Queen's University Belfast for inviting me to give this presentation today. And today we will discuss parent-mediated interventions for young children with autism spectrum disorders as a possible way to improve lives of the children with autism in the countries where applied behavior analysis is not officially recognized or government funded, as is the case in Slovakia. And little bit about myself. Carla already mentioned that I finished master's in psychology here in Slovakia, in Prešov, at Prešov University in Prešov. And after finishing my studies, I moved to Ireland, where I began to work in an ABA home program supervised by BCBA, working with a child with autism for the first time and meeting with applied behavior analysis for the first time. And I was immediately hooked. And the reason why I was hooked was because during my studies, I worked with different children with different developmental disabilities, both in Slovakia and abroad, in different settings. And as a student of psychology, I was present and I was able to observe different kinds of therapies for different kinds of kids in different countries in Europe. And then when I started to work with a child with autism, using principles from applied behavior analysis, the difference, what I've seen, how effective these principles can be and how effective this teaching can be, I was just amazed by that. And I started to study applied behavior analysis. I started to study towards my certification, and I started to attend conferences and webinars. And I was living in UK at the time. And from time to time, I was checking how things are back home. So I was reading these parent blogs about the treatments for autism in Slovakia. And it was kind of a sad reading for me because I could see what we were able to do with the kids in London, where we were leading these intensive treatment programs. The whole team of people, behavior analysts and several therapists and parents and different people involved in the treatment. And it was high intensity treatments, 30 to 40 hours a week. And it was very effective. And then I could see what parents are talking about, what is happening back home. And it was all about swimming with dolphins and playing with dogs and doing a lot of artwork. So I was not thinking about moving back to Slovakia back then, but I was thinking maybe one day when I feel ready and I figure it all out, then I will help to establish applied behavior analysis in Slovak Republic as a way to give back to my home country and to help the parents over there. And then one day, something changed in my family situation and I had to pack my bags. And from one day to another, I had to move back to Slovakia and I wasn't ready. So this is my coming to Slovakia. And Slovakia, I put a little map in the presentation so you can see where it actually is. We have a geographical center of Europe in Slovakia, very close to where I am right now. I am in my hometown that is called Zvolen, very small town, 40,000 people only. So Slovakia is an independent country now. On the 1st of January 1993, Czechoslovakia, it was back then Czechoslovakia, peacefully split into two countries, Czech Republic and Slovak Republic. But even after the split, we maintained very close ties with Czech Republic, as you will see later in the presentation. And Slovakia is very small. It has a population of only 5.5 million people. Official language of Slovakia is Slovak language. It has quite complicated grammar. Our grammar is based on Latin grammar. And the reason why I mentioned this is I was worried when I was coming back to Slovakia because I only worked in English language and all the verbal behavior, everything that we teach kids, I knew how to do it in English, but I had no idea how we are going to do it with Slovak grammar, which is more difficult. And it is causing us some problems. We are trying to figure it out, how to do it. And Slovakia is a part of European Union since 2004. So how is it to be a parent of autistic child in Slovakia? We'll talk about it a little bit. First, there is a general lack of information about autism spectrum disorders in Slovakia, both in general public and unfortunately also among professionals. So there's lots of misinformation, outdated information, different myths about autism. And many parents fail to understand that autism is a complex and often lifelong neurodevelopmental disorder. And they are still trying to cure child's autism, or they wait for the child to grow out of it. And this is a big problem for us when we want to provide early intervention to children. If people don't realize how serious it is until the child is older and the problems are more pronounced. And also there's a tendency from the general public and also the broader family around parents of the child with autism to see children's problems as just lacking boundaries or failed parenting. That happens very often in Slovakia. And why it is a problem? Because instead of being supported as parents of the child with autism in Slovakia, you get criticized by not being able to educate your children well, or you failed as a parent and you failed to provide boundaries for the child. So instead of being supported, parents tend to get criticized here for their child's behavior due to the general lack of awareness about autism. And it is something that I didn't realize right when I came back to Slovakia, but I failed to understand how big of a problem this is for our parents, and how it creates stress for them when raising child with autism. So because of all these things, later as an organization that Carla mentioned, we started to devote more and more time to just to increasing awareness about autism spectrum disorders and provide basic information to general public, and doing a lot of free presentations and talks about importance of early autism screening, early intervention, and diagnosis. Also, the rise in autism means growing shortage of service providers of any kind. So there is significant delay between identifying the first red flags indicating that the child's development may be at risk and obtaining a diagnosis. And also, parents struggle to access services due to long waiting lists. So, for example, I have a colleague that has a son with autism, and she noticed the first symptoms when he was around 12 months of age. And of course, she Googled a lot, and what came up was autism. And it took her 2 years of running around different professionals and centers and asking them to do assessments and tell her what is wrong with her child, and even more importantly, what she should do now, how to support him. But it was only after he was 3, that means 2 years later, that they got a formal diagnosis of autism. So this is one of the problems here in Slovakia for the parents, is they can see that there is something wrong with the child, and awareness is also a little bit better now these years, and they know that they should do something to support the child's development, but they don't know what to do, and they can't find anyone to help them really tell them. And then they wait sometimes for 6 months, for 8 months, sometimes for a year and a half to get a diagnosis. And then when they do get a diagnosis, they are sent home with, your child is autistic, but they don't really know what it means, and they still don't know what to do at all. And now they are at home with their autistic child, and they don't know how to support them. And also there is a preference in Slovakia from the parent side, and also from the professional side, to prefer eclectic approach to treatment generally. So there is this idea that if you do a little bit of everything, it's going to be better for the child. It's going to be more complex supporting child. It's going to be more complex when you do a little bit of everything, and we know that that doesn't really work that way. Also, a big problem for the parents in Slovakia is that they have difficulties to place child into any kind of educational institution. Also, again, because of the rise in autism, these educational institutions like preschools, kindergartens, schools, they feel understaffed, and they feel that they have a lack of knowledge and lack of skills to support these children in the kindergartens and schools. And so they often, there's more and more cases where children are sent home to be basically homeschooled, and the schools only provide a legal minimum of 2 hours per week of schooling. And other than that, the child is at home, again with the parent. So this is a difficult situation for the parents, and that is the reason that very often one of the parents chooses or is forced to leave their job and stay at home with the child to take care of it. and that can lead to financial difficulties and social isolation of the parents. Also, compared to maybe other countries, there is often language barrier. So that means that many parents don't speak English, and they cannot access resources that are out there, lots of resources, but in English or other languages. And if our parents don't speak English, they cannot access these resources in English, and there's very little for them in Slovakian. And so basically, as for the ABA, for example, we have no studies translated, so parents have no access to research or professionals. There's no publications translated, no books, or any other information. So the diagnosis of autism in Slovakia, together with, I would say, a total lack of information, services, or support for the parents, causing very high stress for the families in Slovakia. And now to illustrate how severe it is for the parents in Slovakia to face these challenges, I will share a very sad case that happened in Slovakia less than 2 weeks ago. I was hesitant about including this in the presentation, but I think it really shows up the reality of the parents of these children in Slovakia. So on the 9th of March 2024, the mother and her 8-year-old daughter died after jumping in front of the train. So imagine the situation of this mom, this despair and stress that she had felt that led her to take their lives. And what a local politician said about the tragedy was they were a great family. Their only problem was that their child was disabled. So you can see how these children are viewed here as a problem. They are a problem when in reality the problem is the lack of support generally for the parents in Slovakia. So the families oftentimes feel very isolated, very much left alone without any kind of support, very stressed, very unheard and unseen. As for applied behavioral analysis in Slovakia, that is terrible. Yes, I can see your comments. It is very sad, and it is not the first case, and it is not going to be last. So this is just to illustrate how serious the situation here is. And I often say that Slovakia is a member of European Union, but very often in Slovakia, it is European Union only on paper. So we have lots of great projects, and it can seem that we are in European Union, but the reality for many of the parents here and many of the children with disability are that I call it we are in the Middle Ages still, not in European Union, as for support for these children. Okay, applied behavioral analysis in Slovakia is not officially recognized in Slovakia. There is no established profession of behavior analyst or therapist. And I wanted to say applied behavior analysis in Slovakia doesn't exist. But of course it is better than it was a few years back when we had absolutely nothing. We had no centers, we had no BCBAs. It was much worse back then, so we've done a little bit of work now. What is very curious is that ABA is listed as the first choice intervention in the official autism practice guidelines by the Slovak Ministry of Health. This was in 2021. And two Slovak BCBAs, Ivana Trelva and Lucia Mikočíková, were involved in developing these guidelines. But despite it being listed as a first choice intervention, there is currently no funding available to cover ABA services for children with ASD. So that's what I'm saying about something being on paper, but the reality for the children with autism didn't really change by issuing these guidelines so far. Also, health assurance does not cover ABA services, so families must bear the cost themselves. So if they do have access to these services, they pay it out of their own pocket, or there is very limited funding, mostly from what we refer to as the third sector. That means NGOs and different foundations. So what we are trying to do for the parents that use our services, we are negotiating with them to become partners and fund, cover the services that we provide partially, or so the parents don't have to pay for it themselves. So we are, for example, right now in the negotiation with one big established organization that has more access to funding and can cover the costs. But there is no funding from the government or health assurance. So currently, there are only 6 BCBAs and 2 active RBTs, according to Behavior Analyst Certification Board. These were still people that were certified under the Behavior Analyst Certification Board. And what you see on the picture on the right, this was a few years back when these were the only BCBAs in the Czech and Slovak Republic. So there were only 4 of us. It's a little bit more now. It's over or around 40 people in Czech Republic and 6 BCBs in Slovakia. Also, there is currently no association, accreditation body, or verified course sequence established yet for behavior analysts in Slovakia. But 2 of the BCBAs that I mentioned, Ivana Trelová and Lucka Mikočíková, established course in the basic principles of ABA at the Prešov University in Prešov. That's included in special education studies. And if Ivanka Trelová is here, maybe during the discussion, how many BCBs are there in Slovakia? 6 right now. And if they are here, they can talk a little bit about this program. And thanks to work of my colleagues from Masaryk University in Brno in 2016, a verified course sequence training program in applied behavior analysis was established there, where future Czech and also Slovak behavior analysts and RBTs can study. So there is a way even for Slovakian people to go and study behavior analysis and become behavior analysts. And this absolutely would not be possible without support from the behavior analysts from abroad. And I want to say a huge thank you now to professors Miki Keenan and Karla Dillenberger, and then many others who came and helped to set up the course and gave presentations and workshops and supported these efforts in a lot of different ways. And without this kind of support, it absolutely would not be possible, because not only parents of children with autism feel isolated here, but also BCBAs who do not have their own profession, and they are living in a country with no resources or funding for their work, or they're not officially recognized. So it is very, very important to have support from abroad. Also, Dr. Vince Carbone came and led intensive workshops for the parents and educators, both in Slovakia and Czech Republic. And I also want to say a huge thank you to Dr. Vince Carbone, because I consider him my great teacher and great mentor. And I think if I would not meet him, and if I would not visit his clinic, and I wouldn't see his work, I would not be behavior analyst, and I wouldn't be working with the children this way now. So you see people in the audience listening to his presentations, and many of these are now behavior analysts. So I would say almost everybody who was present there during these workshops, then studied applied behavior analysis and got certified, or the parents who are there also, they continue to work with the children, and it had a huge impact on what was happening here with ABA. And it was very important, and this is why we invited him to come, and why it was so important for us was to show people what is possible. Because when you don't see what is possible, how can we support children with autism to reach their potential using these principles and techniques? If you don't see that, if you do not know it exists, then it's easy to give up, and you see your child and their lack of skills in communication, etc., and you think, people in Slovakia think this is autism, but we know that we can teach these kids, and they can do so much better using applied behavior analysis. So for us, it was really important to show people what clinical excellence means, and to inspire everyone to study and to give us a path. This is the way we want to go, and this is what we want to. This is what we want to reach, and we still didn't reach the clinical excellence of Dr. Carbone and his colleagues and his clinics. But it's nice to have a dream. So maybe one day we'll be there. So we're very thankful for him, and I would say 90% of what we do here in Slovakia and the procedures that we use. And what we are able to do with the kids is thanks to Dr. Carbone and his the work of his colleagues. Also, Mike Miklos and Amaris de Puglia came many times to lead practical workshops for parents, educators, and behavior analysts. And again, the people who attended these workshops, a lot of educators, they still are in contact with us, and they still study, and they are implementing things that they've learned, and they want to learn more. So this is how we try to build a community of people in Czech Republic and Slovak Republic that would be interested in ABA and that would study further. So again, very, very thankful to have these wonderful, wonderful people to come and support what we are doing here. And of course, our next steps here in Slovakia, and I mean myself and the other BCBAs that are here, is to establish National Association of Behavior Analysts here and develop national system of certification. And then our work in Slovakia with the parents. In 2017, we established an NGO called Via ABA. In Slovakian, it would be Via ABA. The founding members were professionals, primarily psychologists and behavior analysts, and also parents of children with ASD. And we believe that parents of children with ASD have the right to access evidence-based practices. So the goals of this organization is disseminating information about evidence-based treatments for autism and ABA. So we are doing a lot of this, just giving out information about autism, about evidence-based treatments and applied behavior analysis. Increasing public awareness about the importance of early autism screening, diagnosis, and intervention. Again, both general public and professionals. Demonstrating to parents and educators the effectiveness of teaching strategies based on applied behavior analysis. Empowering parents to advocate for access to behavior analytic services for their children. So we are a very small organization. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of families here in Slovakia that would need this kind of services. And of course, we cannot help them all. So we are contacted by maybe several families a day, each day, requesting our help, requesting services, and we cannot help them all. Absolutely not. But what we want to do, what we want to create, we want to show people what can be done, and we want them to start asking for it and start pressuring the policymakers and politicians to start funding these services and just getting involved in providing services for these kids. better quality of education, better quality of treatment for autism. So we are trying to make parents more active because compared to maybe Western Europe or US, we do not have parents petitioning and advocating and pushing the politicians to really make changes. They're relatively passive, waiting for things to improve. And we all know that everywhere in the world, nothing ever happened. It was always parents who started to push the politics to make change. So until we have that, we cannot really do things on a bigger scale here in Slovakia. We also support children with ASD in preschools and schools by collaborating with teachers and special educators. So we often work with the children and we then support them long-term in different settings, be it preschool classes, state schools, when children go to the classrooms with their neurotypical peers, or special education classrooms. We are always available for consultations. We go observe children there, help with whatever is necessary because we want them to be successful. So we work with the parents and educators long-term. Also training other professionals in applied behavior analysis principles and techniques. Mostly educators, special educators, and speech and language pathologists who are very interested in Slovakia. They are very interested in analysis of verbal behavior and how we teach different verbal operands. So this is something we can share with them, and we have quite a nice collaboration with speech and language pathologists here in Slovakia, and also collaborating with other organizations on national and international level. We also operate in underserved and underdeveloped regions characterized by higher rates of unemployment and lower salaries. So we did not only want the richest people in Slovakia have access to services, we wanted everybody to have access to services. So, for example, the place where I'm now, my hometown, is sometimes called, this region is called the Valley of Hunger, the Hunger Valleys, with very high rates of unemployment and very low salaries. So far, we have established 3 intervention centers, providing services for families, offering consultations, parent training, and conducting hands-on workshops for hundreds of parents and professionals so far. So that's our work. But providing intensive interventions to children with ASD, as we were attempting to do that from the beginning, was challenging. That means coming from abroad, where we worked in these high-intensity programs where children were receiving 30 to 40 hours a week of these services provided by trained professionals, several of them working with one child. It is very difficult to do things same way in a country where you have no resources, be it time, staff, or finances. So we were struggling with lack of resources and stuff. Also, it was very high cost for parents if you try to do that way. Even if they only partially covered the costs, it was still very high. Thinking it's long-term financial burden on the families that are anyway experiencing financial difficulties. Then the parents were still very vulnerable to loss of services. So change of any kind, anything changed. The therapists, we're usually women, young women, and we get married and we have children, and or we move to another city, or the family moves to another city, or the life circumstances change in any way. It can mean the loss of services. So even if children were able to secure this kind of services, they would lose them very easily if something changed in their life. Also, it meant for us as an organization we were able to provide services to only few families. If we are doing high intensity programs for long time, we could not help any other families, and lots of families were contacting us, and we had to put them on the waiting list, and we were not able to really work with them. Also, families from remote areas were unable to access services. In the very beginning, I remember we had a center in the town of Košice that is almost on the border with Ukraine, to the east of the country. And there are families from Prague coming every month after month, to our center in Košice for a week to receive services, because there was nothing in Czech Republic. And it was just horrible for the families to travel from our capital, Bratislava, or from Czech Republic, or from far away, to be able to access services. It was absolutely horrible and shameful, and very expensive for them as well. So we had a lot of troubles, we had a lot of worries, and then the pandemic came. So the COVID-19 pandemic only highlighted vulnerability of families here, and also our own vulnerability. From day to day, we were unable to deliver face-to-face support. We had to learn very, very quickly to use telehealth. We moved to online format to maintain contact with families and continue providing care. And the crisis just underscored the importance of parent training, because we could see that the families that had more skills to support their children reported better overall adjustment and experienced fewer negative impacts in this very stressful situation. So it is not that we didn't provide parent training. Parent training was always a part of our interventions. We're always working with the parents and provided parent training, but it wasn't that consistent. And now, when I compare it to what we do now, it wasn't very effective. I think it was more about telling parents what to do, showing them, but we didn't spend that much time practically teaching them skills. So did not spend much time practicing skills to fluency. And there are families who attended our trainings with more consistency, and they had more skills. And these were the families that did so much better during the COVID crisis. And when we asked them, and we knew it must be stressful for the families, they were we had lockdowns, very strict ones in Slovakia for a long time. And we were talking to them, and we knew it was very stressful. And we asked them how they are doing. And these families these parents who had skills to teach their children, the more skills they had, the more relaxed they were. And they said, actually, we are okay. We are only doing what we are normally doing. Only now we don't have to be running around to, take other kids to school, etc. We have more time to spend actually to teach our child with autism. So we were surprised how these families adjusted to the situation quite well. So after COVID-19 crisis, we continued to develop our online training and consultation formats. We are still working on it for it to be effective. And now we try to enhance flexibility and extend our reach to families in more remote areas, because we learned very, very fast how to do trainings online. We had to. And now we can see the value of it. And it means that the families now don't have to travel to us. And we can now provide online training, sometimes partially online, and sometimes if the families are even we work with the families in different countries that we never met. And these were Slovakian families living in Norway, France, Ireland, or wherever. For example, waiting for the services, waiting for the child to be assessed and diagnosed, and they were on the waiting list for services. But in the meantime, we were able to support them, working with them online. So it became more flexible. And our aim became very important to us to ensure that families still have access to training and supervision that they need, even in the situation of crisis. And you know that not only COVID-19, but also war in Ukraine is right on our borders. So it influences the situation in Slovakia in every area of life, and it's very stressful for people. So people don't feel very sure about the future. So we don't know where anything can happen, and we want to be and stay very flexible. And also what happened, because we spent a lot of time increasing awareness about autism, what happened that the parents of younger and younger children started to contact us more. So now we had, with more talks that we gave in the media, we had more parents calling us and saying, oh, we've seen or we've heard this interview, or we've seen this this video of you talking about early signs of autism. And now I have a 12-month-old baby, but I can see some of these signs. And could you please look at this child and maybe tell me how to support his or her development? So this means we had to change a little bit also what skills we focus on with children, because the children start to come in a very younger and younger age, which is great, but it meant for us that we had to change some things about how we provide intervention. So one of the possible solutions for us was parent-mediated interventions, where there is growing evidence that they are effective for children with ASD. And this beautiful picture is the beautiful family of my colleague, and she has a son with autism. And we had many families that are living evidence that these interventions can be very effective and improve lives of the children with autism and also their families and their siblings. So the parent-mediated interventions are, of course, based on the principles of applied behavior analysis, and they share all characteristics of behavior interventions. So, of course, in the beginning, there is assessment of the child's skills to identify their strengths and weaknesses, or there's setting specific goals. There are specific behaviors or skills that are observable and measurable. Of course, the intervention is individualized, tailored to the individual child according to their needs and abilities, and also to suit the needs of the family. And there's monitoring progress, so learning outcomes are recorded and evaluated regularly to determine if the goals are being achieved. So this is common with all behavior interventions, but what is the difference? The difference is that the primary and often only provider of the intervention is the parent or both parents. And the parents themselves learn on the procedures and techniques, and then they use these techniques to work with the child. Another difference is that not only child skills are evaluated, but also those of the parent. So what we did was a great shift from the focus on teaching the child to teaching the parents. So now the parent training was not only additional to our interventions, it was the main focus now, training the parent and doing it effectively. And the goal of the training is to teach the parent set of skills that are necessary to work with the child effectively. So why it has advantages, why would we train parents to perform the intervention? And we said the parents are already burdened and they're already stressed. So why would we put more burden on them and put more stress on them and ask them to learn new skills and spend time teaching their child? So one question is, wouldn't it create more burden for these families, for these parents? And so why would we do that? So young children naturally spend the majority of their time at home and with their parents. So one of the main reasons why we want to do this is that the parents spend a lot of time with the child, a lot of time with the child, and they have a great influence on the child's behavior and skills also. So why not to teach parents skills to support the child's social interaction and communication, play skills, self-help skills, when they anyway spend so much time together? It provides child with many opportunities to learn and practice skills without having to spend 20 to 40 hours in some intervention center. And again, we are talking about very young kids. Not that we can do this with older kids as well, but this is mainly advantages when the children are very young. So if you have a child that is like 12 months old or a year and a half old, you don't want the child to spend so many hours outside of home. The children naturally should be at home with their parents for majority of the time. It increases the child's exposure to intervention across daily routines. And these are the situations where professionals can't reach. So the situations, and we have many parents coming to us saying, well, it is nice that my child will go and spend 30 minutes a month with a speech and language pathologist, and that these professionals are working with them. But then I am at home with my child at home majority of the time, and I'm the one brushing my kid's teeth, and I'm the one feeding him in the morning. I'm the one putting them to sleep, and I'm the one going to visit family with this child, and I'm the one going to the shops, etc. And these are the situations where no psychologist or SLP or other professional in Slovakia will go and spend time with a child, teaching them or teaching parents how to deal with these situations. So these are the situations where only parent will be present. They have to know what to do and how to support their child and how to teach the skills to the child in these situations. And also it's learning or teaching the child in context where child will use the skill. Instead of teaching him in a completely different environment, having to transform the skill into the context where the child will use the skill. Also, it reduces greatly the need for daily commuting and travel, which is financially burdensome, and it can be physically demanding for the child given their young age. So also, when the parents of younger and younger children started to contact us, it became increasingly difficult for them to travel regularly when the child is so young. It's very demanding for the young children. And main thing of all for us, what a parent learns, no one can take away. So no matter what the situation, no matter what the crisis, no matter what the change, the parents have the skills. I call it the key to their child's development and learning. Nobody can take that key away. And then if they have access to services and they can have a support of many different wonderful professionals, that's wonderful. That's ideal. But if not, at least the child, the parent can teach and support the child no matter what. So we now have a training program called Step by Step, but we almost completely transformed our services into parent training and parent-mediated interventions. So we call this training program Step by Step. And its objectives are to teach parents practical skills to support child's social interaction, communication, play, and other skills. And I have to say here also that one of the changes that we made is putting we always focused on communication. And I was the one always saying during presentations everywhere to all the professionals, to all the parents, please teach mainly men's, first men's. Nothing is more important than men's. The effect that men training has for the child with autism, no other skills can have that effect socially. But again, with the children coming younger and younger, we started to focus more and more actually on pre-verbal, early social and communication skills. So instead of saying to all the parents and professionals, teach mans, we say don't teach mans yet. We have to prepare a child for this training, for the communication training. And we teach many precursors to communication and language development in kids. And one of the first modules of this step-by-step program is focused on early social and pre-communication skills. I call them pre-communication skills, pre-verbal skills, increasing vocalizations. Most of the children that come to us are non-vocal. That means no vocal speech in words, and sometimes very few speech sounds, so very poor speech production or vocal production. So this first module focuses very heavily on developing these skills, so early social skills, and increasing vocal production of the children. And we are also trying to develop, together with my colleagues at Masaryk University, we are trying to develop early intervention program that would be very structured and to support these skills that we could teach to early interventionists in Slovakia and Czech Republic, because it's not only us that are experiencing that the younger and younger children come. So it is happening to other professionals in Slovakia as well. And we do not have, I think, an effective program to support these very young children and to support the social interaction and communication or pre-communication skills. So we are hoping to develop this into kind of a structured program that we can teach other interventionists in Slovakia and Czech Republic. And so as for entry requirements, we are relatively open. So families from all socioeconomic backgrounds come, and they don't have to have a formal diagnosis. So these are the kids where parents notice some warning signs in speech development, language development, or social development mainly. And they're waiting for assessments, and they're waiting for diagnosis. And we accept these children as well and work with them. So we accept children just showing symptoms that are red flags for autism, or they mean that their development is at risk. And children are referred mainly by local professionals such as psychologists, psychiatrists, and speech and language pathologists. And we have a very, very good collaborations in the region. So we have professionals where we can refer children, and they do refer children to us, and we have very good communication with them. Or parents approach us directly, or they're referred by other parents. And the age of the children we serve varies very widely, ranging from 5 months. These are our youngest children that come are like 5 months old, 6 months old, 9 months old, to teenagers. But majority of the children we work with fall within the 2 to 3 years old age range. And they're typically children who have very few skills. They are non-vocal. They prefer solitary play. And these are the children that need an intervention aimed at early social interaction skills. There's lots of questions, and I hope we will go back to the questions at the end. But here's the question. You mentioned that it takes years to get diagnosis in Slovakia. It is due to limited number of professionals, or economic reasons, or both. Mainly, as for diagnosis, is mainly due to limited number of professionals. So we are right now experiencing in Slovakia a huge lack of professionals in all the professions that are relevant to the children with autism. Whether they're like child psychologists, speech and language pathologists, educators, special educators, psychiatrists, etc. So it's not only behavior analysts, but we are lacking all the professionals from all the professions in Slovakia. And this is the reason why there's great delays. Parents wait for any kind of assessment that they need to actually get the diagnosis at the end. They have to, they need different assessments. And for each of those assessments, they have to wait for months, like half a year, 8 months, sometimes a year. It's very, very frustrating for the parents. And in the meantime, they're kind of left in a space where they don't know what to do. And they read everywhere that early intervention is very important, and they're losing the time. And they know that they're losing the time. They don't know what to do themselves. The training program that we have now consists of individual modules, each lasting 12 weeks. So what we did differently now, we separated a set of skills that we want to teach parents into different modules. So for example, there is this module to teach early social skills or pre-verbal skills. There's one module. Another module would be intensive teaching. Another module would be man training. And all these are kind of separate modules. So the parents can pick up a module and we teach them a set of skills related to this module. And then they can, we finish the module and when we cover the skills, and then they can choose to continue on their own, continue working with the skills that we taught them, and continue just with the consultations, or they can enter another module that would be building on that. So we cover the skills needed to teach pre-communication skills, early social skills. We can continue teaching parents how to teach MANs. This allows us more flexibility, and we serve now many, many more families. So we kind of rotate families in these modules, and we are able now to work with many more families than before, which was one of the main reasons why we wanted to do it this way, rather than having few families and working with them long term and not able to provide services for anyone else. So each module focuses on specific skill set for parents. For example, module that focuses on intensive teaching includes skills identified through task analysis as necessary for effectively teaching the child using ITT format. So the program module consists of weekly 120-minute training sessions during 12 weeks. One parent is required to participate in parent training, but both are allowed to attend training sessions. So we actually work with both parents, but one person is responsible for implementing treatment at home. And this is another thing, that the child also receives 15 hours per week of parent-mediated in-home treatment. And so one parent is like a primary interventionist and is responsible for implementing these 15 hours per week at home. And also they get home assignments, and they have to take a lot of videos that they then we analyze together. And so we want one parent to be responsible for that, but other parents, and we have many families where both parents come for the training whenever possible. They come for consultations together, and they come for trainings together, which is the ideal situation. And the parent training that we do, the curriculum is based on standard BST methods with major focus on practice. So what we do now is much more practical. So we spend majority of the time with the parent practicing the skills. So we still do BST model, where we give a short verbal explanation, and we model the skill, we role play, and then the child practices the skill with the child. Of course, the child is present during these trainings, and then we give the feedback and repeat the cycle again and again until fluency. So just compared to what we did before, we found out that giving verbal instructions is not very effective, and the most effective thing is just practicing with the parents and giving feedback and showing them again, modeling the skill and role-playing again, and practicing again, giving feedback again, practicing again, giving feedback again for majority of the time. And also one of the differences is that we break the skills. What we found out, what we had to do is to break the skills into, I call them micro skills. So we do task analysis, and each skill, if necessary, we can break further and further and practice that micro skill into fluency between putting it together with into more complex skill. So we might not necessarily have to do that maybe for people who have who studied behavior analysis, who have a theoretical background and skills, but we definitely have to do it with the parents if we want them to really learn the skills. So basically what we found out, the teaching children is so much more easier, and we knew how to do it, but we had to learn how to effectively teach parents, and it's not the same. We also use, in this training modules, we use strategies based on naturalistic developmental behavior interventions. And we have studies to show that these interventions facilitate generalization and functional use of communication skills. So what we are after with the children that we serve is spontaneous and functional use of skills. That is very important for us. So, for example, that first module that we have that is based on increasing vocalizations and vocal imitation and teaching early social skills is all based on shaping and using play as a teaching context, and because it is a natural context in which young children develop and learn. So we are talking about very young learners here, and we feel like it is very natural for the children to learn in this context of play. So this type of interventions, as many of you might know, teaching is based on child's interests and preferences. So this is very, very important for us. We are helping parents to identify what motivates their children, what are the reinforcers, what are the preferences, and we're using that to teach the skills. Learning opportunities, we use learning opportunities that are naturally occurring within the child's everyday activities and routines, of course, because we are teaching parents, and we want them to be able to use all the naturally occurring opportunities to teach their children. We are focusing heavily on functional communication. With these learners, we encourage social interaction and providing opportunities for the child to engage in interactive play. So these things are very important for us in our training programs. And we hope to present some of the data and continue developing this program. We might be able to present some of the data during the European Behavior Analyst Association conference in Brno this year. So I think this might be all from me today, and maybe there are some questions that we can answer now.
Okay, thank you so much, Zuzanna. That was really, really interesting, and there are clearly a number of questions have arisen. I'll read them out to you in a minute. So if anybody has any further questions, please put them in the box with the question mark at the right hand side of the bottom of your screen. There's a little question mark. you can put all the questions there, and people then can also put the questions to the top by saying that they are a more important question. There's one question actually, Zuzanna, for you. That has got 5 votes already. That is a really important one, and that's really on how are you your work? How is it funded? How are you paid for your time? Is that funded by the parents, or do you have grants, or what way is it?
So we have different ways of funding, but basically parents pay for the services. But they just partially cover the costs of what we do. And then we are getting some funding from the projects that we do, that we are able to get. And also, as I said, we are trying to partner with other organizations and bigger kind of foundations and organizations that are more established here in Slovakia for a longer time, and they have access to more funding than we do. And so there are organizations here that are now willing to pay for the services, to cover the services for the child. And this has been increasing over the years because they see how effective the work is, and they like it. So they offer us more and more funding. So we are hoping to, until we have, it's very difficult to work consistently with the lack of funding. So the situation already improved for us when it's compared to the beginning, where it was really, really shaky. And so we are doing what we can at the moment to secure funding from all sides. And parents still have to pay for the services, but they only partially cover the costs. And we hope to get more funding to cover the services.
Thanks very much. I mean, there's an awful lot of people saying thank you so much. You're doing wonderful work. So you can read the comments there as well. The funding in America is actually quite interesting because we had Laurie Unum, Dr. Laurie Unum over in Belfast some years ago, and I put a link for her presentation to her presentation into the chat there earlier on for people who want to see about the history of the funding in the States, really. So because it didn't come from nowhere, it was fought by the parents over years and years, and luckily there is now legislation to have funding in all of the states in America, but that is not the case in the rest of the world. And that's why your presentation is so important for World Behaviour Analysis Day, because oftentimes people just assume that everybody gets funding and people make a lot of money, but they don't. It's mostly the parents have to pay either all of it or a good lot of the interventions. Zuzanna, there's a number of other questions that I don't want to leave them out. There's a lot of interest in the step-by-step parent training program, and there are people wondering, is it a pre-established curriculum that could be made available to others or other locations?
We are working on it. We are really working on it, and as I'm saying, with the colleagues from Masaryk University, we're really hoping to develop this into a structured program that we can offer to others. That's the aim. So we are still working on it, and hopefully we'll present some more. And of course, we'll make it available for others if it's useful.
Yeah, and Mickey's actually sending his regards to you, and he's asking here a question about the parents. Do the parents that you support, do they understand the need to support you by lobbying politicians and explaining the value of your work?
Sometimes, some of them. Maybe not so much. We were able, it depends, we're able to create a wonderful community of people around us. So we're really trying to support each other and create a group of people and community of people that support each other mutually. So parents supporting parents and parents supporting us. And we have wonderful, wonderful parents that support us. That said, that I always compare parents in Slovakia to parents in other countries where I lived, and the parents in Western Europe, and parents in US, and parents in UK. And compared to them, I feel that parents in Slovakia are very, very passive. Maybe this is the post-communist kind of mentality, kind of waiting for things to happen. So I don't think many people don't realize that everything we do, how much does it cost, how much time, how much energy. You know how the simple steps was translated into Czech language, and how many people worked on that for how many hours. You know, it was a great effort of all the people that were involved. And when I put it on my Facebook page, on our Facebook page, and I said, congratulations to amazing people who made this possible, because it's an amazing resource for the parents in Czech Republic. Slovak parents would write, oh, I wonder when can we have something like that here? So the general attitude is kind of waiting for things to improve. They don't. So we are trying to activate people, make them more active, and include them. We have an amazing project called Invisible, where we try to give voice to the parents, and we invite them to presentations, and we have discussions. We put it in the media. So we make this big events. We are going to have one in April now, where we discuss about all these things, and we want to parents of these children, talk to other people, like general public, other parents, about what they go through, and just kind of give them voice and make the more active group of people who will start working towards improving things here. There are many amazing and active parents in Slovakia. Absolutely, yes. Still not enough for me.
Yeah. There's another question here, Zuzanna, about conferences, and you mentioned the European Association for Behaviour Analysis conference that is going to happen in September this year in Brno, in the Czech Republic. And before I put the question to you, I also want to tell people about, we are planning to have a get-together for a lot of different countries, for a group of people that we called the Professional Advisory Group. There were 22 countries represented in that group, and we are hoping to have a special meeting for that group on the Saturday of that conference, after the conference, not part of the conference, but after the conference, because professional recognition is becoming a huge, and it has always been, but is becoming an even more important point for behavior analysts outside of the US. Professional recognition, that means consumer protection. Because if a profession is recognized, then it's much easier to protect the consumers from malpractice as well. And that's always very, very important, because at the moment in Slovakia and in a lot of most of Europe and most of the rest of the world, anybody could call themselves a behavior analyst. It doesn't matter about their training, because there is no professional recognition. And that's really our key push at the moment, to try and get that into as many countries. All countries have to have it in the end, because imagine speech and language pathologists would not be officially recognized. There wouldn't be a profession. And for behavior analysts, they're not a profession outside of the US in nearly all countries.
Yes, we already have that problem here. The problem is that when if you do use ABA and it's effective, the effect it would have in the country like Slovakia with no regulation is that other service providers, centers, etc., they would say, oh, well, you know what, we do ABA as well. I just think they're putting it on their website just to, because parents come and they say, oh, they do ABA there, and I've heard it's effective. Why don't you do it? And they say, oh, you know what, we do it actually.
That's exactly the point.
Yeah. And it's happening a lot in these countries like Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, and it's
that's the biggest danger because it's all very well starting small and getting really good reputation, but we all know that there will be a backlash from and malpractice can lead to that backlash very, very quickly. But the question here was really is we are aber going to organize a conference, or because people would like to come over and support you to support it as a valid intervention.
It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to hear. You know what, we are normally organizing like smaller conferences, and we are building it up into being able to get funding and being able to organize really bigger ones. And everybody is really, really welcome to come and support what we do here. because I think it's another very, very important thing. And that's why it was so important to get things like the people like you and Mickey and Mike Miklos and Amaris to come over to get people interested and to show them how effective this work can be, and show them really good behavior analysts. And then the people would want to study more and be more involved. So it is very important for us also to have conferences like this, and even like international speakers and people from US coming, giving, or from all around Europe, I mean, all around the world, coming and helping us here. So for you, it would be maybe a nice opportunity to come see. Slovakia is very beautiful. We have a very beautiful mountains, very beautiful nature. But for us, it's also very, very important.
Yeah, there were actually people asking for your email address to connect and learn from you more. So maybe if you wanted to.
So I will put my email here.
So there was another question. Oh, thank you so much. There was Zuzanna's email address is in the chat there. There was also a quick question about the modules that you have, but I think you answered that already, that you're working on making your curriculum available to other people. Brad was asking, he was curious about the ethical concerns surrounding parental RBT model that discussed by the BACB. Do you know about that, or is that he?
Can you specify?
It's probably a little bit of a difficult question to just answer so quickly if you haven't read that. He's put a link in here into the question to a PDF file. I'll put his question into the chat, but that's really probably a question that would not.
Maybe you're talking about parents becoming RBTs and then working with other children without maybe proper supervision from BCBAs.
Something like that. I don't know what the BAC. There's something in the newsletter of the BACB that would need to be checked really before you can answer that.
What we're actually doing in our training is only training parents to work with their own child. So we discuss this with them, and they know the limitation and their ability, because they don't have the theoretical background, their ability to work with other children is very, very limited. So what they learn, they actually learn how to use it with their own child. And even that, it's not the same as having the theoretical background and being able to work with other kids. So we absolutely do not talk about that, no.
Yeah.
I will read
Yeah, I think sometimes, RBTs, people, we know about RBT training and supervision requirements and so forth. I mean, there's no reason why a parent can't go through that and become an RBT in the fullest sense of the word, in the same sense as other people become RBTs, but that's not the same as the parent training that you're offering, because that's only for their own children.
Yeah.
Sandra wants to know, are there any private schools that address the needs of students with autism spectrum disorders in Slovakia? Not necessarily. I reckon that would not necessarily be ABA, but
well, we have lots of special needs schools, and we have lots of specialized schools and preschools or classes for children with autism in Slovakia. They're usually using structured teaching approach, and they are not very, what my concern here is, they're not very effective teaching communication to children with autism. So we rarely encounter child with autism that can spontaneously communicate after these programs, and also the effectivity of the teaching. The teaching procedures are not very effective. So the quality of education for the children with autism in Slovakia is not very good quality, I would say, just generally.
Yeah, I mean, Mickey's commenting here in the comment box about the importance to remember that the regulations between the different countries are very different, and that's why the professional regulation in each country is so important. So even the RBT that's an American qualification. So while we all understand as BCBAs and so forth, we understand what the requirements are, but that does not translate into being recognized within Slovakia. So if you are a US-based, if you have your RBT credentials through the BACB, that doesn't mean that you're professionally recognized anywhere other than by the BACB, and that does not translate into Slovakia or any other country for that matter. And that's why we are working so hard on trying to get this professional recognition. Joe wants to know, is aber is there a Facebook group or Twitter group that you could?
We do have a Facebook page.
Would you mind putting your link in the chat? Maybe would that be a good idea? People can copy it. Thanks very much. There's a link. Zuzanna's put the link into the chat, and I've also put in a link for the Yoruba project, which is a project that is just finished, but where those 22 countries were involved as professional advisory group. I think somebody put the thumbs down for Zuzanna's. I don't think they meant the thumbs down. I hope they meant the thumbs up.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to read the chat. I wasn't able to read the chat from the very beginning, but I will go through it
That's okay.
I read all the questions and comments and everything.
Okay. So Sandra is one final question here. Sandra is a Teach Advanced consultant and a BCBA. And she feels that Teach works well if properly implemented.
That is a very important comment. That is a very important comment, because what we discussed with my colleagues from Maastricht University, that what we call Teach here, or what we call PECs here, or any other methodology might not be properly implemented. So it's not done in a way it was designed, and the people are not even trained to actually implement Teach or PECs or any of these methodologies.
Yeah. It's the same in Northern Ireland. We find that, because Teach has a lot of behavioural principles underpinning it if it's done properly. Yeah. And obviously, I mean, we know PECs does, of course, is basically a behaviour analytic intervention if applied properly. Yeah. Zuzanna, I think we've picked your brains for long enough, and it remains for me just to thank you so much to help us celebrate World Behaviour Analysis Day. It's just wonderful to hear from places, especially I think for our American colleagues that were here today, to hear from countries other than the US. But we had so many people from all over the world. We had people from South Korea, from Japan, from Europe, for Czech Republic, Slovakia, UK, Ireland. We had people from all over the place, so it was just fantastic. We're really celebrating the world connection, and to make that connection and to have you here, just wonderful. I know we've worked together for a very long time, and I'm really, really happy about that. And we will continue to work together. And so people can contact you if they wanted to. I mean, one thing is, of course, when people want to support behaviour analysts in other countries and children with autism in other countries, they need to remember that the funding situation is not the same as what it is in their country. So it's not a way of making a quick buck to go abroad. It's actually quite a lot of hard work. But you see the comments here, you keep up the amazing pioneering, and so I'll leave it at this for now, okay? So Israel and Russia is telling you thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you, Carola, for inviting me. It was a great honor to give this presentation on this day. It's wonderful to celebrate B.F. Skinner's birthday. And thank you, everyone, for listening and for your patience. And just reading the comments is so amazing. I think I'm just going to read it over and over just to have this little boost of positive energy from all of you. So you're all so nice, and thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for coming and being so lively on the discussion forum and have some really interesting questions for Zuzanna today. The presentation is video recorded, and the recording will be up on our webpage. It will be available here on Behaviour Live, of course, as well, for anybody who's registered and maybe wasn't able to be here. And we will also put the video up on our centre webpage for anybody. That usually takes a week or so before we get that up. But So as Mickey says, we'll see you at the
I'm
conference in
sending
Brno.
a big hug to Mickey. Thank
I will
you.
do.
See you soon.
And we'll see you in Brno in September. Okay. Bye everybody.
Everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.